Good morning, everybody. We are going to go live with Steve Williamson. Steve is the principal clarinet player of the Chicago Symphony, and he's also a really dear friend of mine. Good morning, Melody. How are you? Thank you for tuning in from Taiwan. Let's see, we've got Blanchett Laurie. Let's see, Musty Goulemez, Carl Collins. Let's see, who else do we have? We got a bunch of people that are joining it. Reed Scraper, there he is. Hey, so we are going live with Reed Scraper. This is Steve Williamson. So everyone, Steve's a really good friend of mine. Hey, Steve, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good to see you. How are you?
It's so good to see you too, man.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
I miss seeing you every day at work, man. You got your Chicago Symphony mug?
Yeah, I have to say, I was waking up and my wife brought this into me. I thought, oh, well, that's nice. So
Can you show us the other side of it?
of course we got
It's the
Maestro
Maestro.
Muti in all his splendor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, what a conductor. How lucky are we that we get to make music with him?
Oh, for sure. It's a blessing.
Man. Yeah, he's such a scholar and such a he's such an operatic conductor, you know. He's like one of the guys who's really in tune with singing and makes the orchestra really sing. So.
Yeah, he loves to sing and makes us sing. He really does make us sing in a way that we first of all didn't think was possible, but it really makes the orchestra sound fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, I'm looking forward to getting to know you. Do you have any shout outs? Do we have any people that you want to say hi to real quick?
Oh,
got, John Ye is on. Let's say a special shout out to John Ye.
Hey, John. Thanks for joining us. Oh my gosh, it's a real pleasure. I'm such a lucky guy because, to get to work with people like John and Lori Bloom and Greg Smith. I've got some legendary guys in my section, and they're so supportive. It's been a real. Really, I pinch myself every day. Hopefully, we'll be back to work soon. That would be great.
You're the young guy, man. You're the new guy in the block in the clarinet section, right?
I may be the young guy in the section, but I'm definitely one of the older people in the wings. So that's just how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Older.
That's awesome. So, you joined Chicago Symphony in 2011, and
Yep.
you came from the Met.
Yes.
Could you just tell a little bit about what was that transition like from being an opera player to being an orchestral musician?
It's funny that I think a lot of symphonic players, when they hear that somebody's coming from an opera orchestra, I think they probably think, well, first of all, the repertoire is very different. There's no doubt about it. It's a completely different scenario. But the weird thing is, great playing is great playing. It doesn't matter. I mean, yes, a lot of the time, at least in opera, a lot of the time you are always aware of the singers because it should be about what's happening on stage all the time. Occasionally you get a moment where you get to shine. But most of the time, if you're really conscientious about the score and about the production, you just want to be a part of the bigger picture. And I also know that, making that transition from the opera pit to the stage for a symphonic orchestra is very different because you become, obviously, you're a lot more visible. But it's similar because there's many times, probably what we would probably say 90% of the time, you're not playing a solo role. You're playing an accompaniment role, or you're a tutti member of, a 100-piece orchestra.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
it really is the same thing because, maybe I get more opportunity to play solos in a symphonic setting, but even though it's it's symphonic repertoire versus operatic repertoire, it's just great music. And I'll tell you one thing for sure, I learned so much. Pardon me while I reach down here, grab my coffee. Pardon me. The thing is, I learned so much at the Met. I was in the principal chair for almost 9 years, maybe a little over 8, and every day I was completely blown away, not just by my colleagues in the orchestra, but by the incredible singing.
Wow.
It really, as as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't get any better than that. It was just an absolute dream.
Yeah.
You know, I have to say something really quick because, and I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, but it would be remiss of me not to mention that we lost a very dear colleague in the musical world. He,
Rudy, right?
Vinny Leonti. That's okay. He was a member of the Met viola section.
Yeah.
He's been a member of the Met Orchestra for over 33 years.
Wow.
I had the privilege to get to know him and to work with him on a daily basis. And I think it's obvious that, you know, that orchestra is very much a family.
Yeah.
And when you lose a member, you're deeply, deeply disturbed and distraught. And I want to just send my condolences to his family and friends, and to all of the members of the orchestra at the Met who are very sad right now.
Yeah.
Because he was a fantastic person. You know, you meet musicians every once in a while who are not only great musicians, but are great people. His character, he came to work every day with a smile on his face. I mean, I don't think I ever saw him frown. So he was an inspiration as a human being. He's obviously a great musician, a great father, a great husband. He was the conductor of the Westchester Youth Symphony for many years, as was his father.
Hugo Horn says he was the kindest soul. Hugo is
I know Hugo. Yeah. Yes, he's absolutely right. He's going to be very, you know, that's a part of a family that's going to be very missed for a very, very, very long time. I don't think anybody will ever forget him. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
He was young. He was like 59, and he passed away
60,
from coronavirus. I mean, it's a real thing. You know, it's like when it affects our lives and the people we know, it's really it hits close to home.
It does. He's the first person that I personally know as a musician that I worked with that has passed away from this horrible virus. So, you know, we are all doing what we can. We're just, you know, isolating ourselves. I'm lucky because I'm not alone. I have my family, and I'm grateful for them.
I know. I mean, sorry to change the topic, but I mean, like, how cool was it to see you do the Rhapsody in Blue with your family and the quintet?
You know, I gotta say, it was. We didn't. You know, oddly, I think we did maybe 2 or 3 takes of that. And
real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt. Ricky Morales is on.
Hey, Ricardo.
Ricky.
Hi, buddy.
I love Ricky.
Oh, it's so sweet. Yeah, me too. Oh, huge fan. Love him so much.
Always a smile. Talk about that guy always having a smile.
Yeah, and let me tell you, talk about inspiration. I mean, I started off subbing at the Met, and thanks to him, he let me have the privilege of just sitting and playing second to that guy. You know, like I say, I pinch myself every day for the opportunities I've had and for the people who have helped me. And I mean, I couldn't do the things that I do. I even try to do the things that he's always doing. I can't even come close. But the thing is, he's always been an inspiration for me. So
he called you Big Steve, right? And then Steve Ahern was Little Steve, right?
That's right.
Big Steve.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, there's so many people. And, you know, it's such a small world. We all know it's not even 2 degrees of separation. Everybody knows somebody on a very, very deep mutual level. So it's a very small, and we're grateful because we need each other right now.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm sorry to interrupt. Would you mind going back to the Gershwin Rhapsody in Blue?
Oh,
you had 2 French horns. You had a trumpet. You had a clarinet.
Tuba too. I know, and everybody jokes because they're like, "Well, I mean, dude, you're like the only woodwind player," and I'm like, you know what? I really, as much as I, you know, play a woodwind, I wish it were a brass instrument. That's the truth. I mean, I've always wanted to be a brass player. But that's okay. You know, this is my calling. I found my voice, but the truth is I love the fact that they play brass instruments and they play them so well. We did maybe 2 or 3 takes, and there was a funny moment because the one take right before the one that we ended up submitting, was probably our best take, but my cat, came through the room while we were playing. I thought it was great, but, you know, in the moment we finish it, and one of my sons, my youngest son Matthew on the tuba said, "Hey, did you see Ruby just go through the room?" And then everybody like said, no, we're taping. And he's like, oh man. So we couldn't submit it, but it was
you should
funny.
have left it, man.
I thought so. I thought it was cool because it's like a real natural thing that happens. You know, you're in a family. You can't control it. You can't control everything, and you certainly wouldn't want to. But
oh man, cats
anyway,
are always the star of the show.
It was great to do it with them because we ended up, you know, I think it was a brass quintet version. That's what it was. I was playing second trumpet, so it starts with the solo in the second trumpet part, oddly enough, and then it's so cool because to see your kids, you know, they're pushing the envelope. I mean, they're like, Dad, you know, what's with your gliss? You can do better than that. And I'm like, okay, I guess I better practice. So, you know, we had a good time. And, you know, more than anything, it's important to know that we're lucky that we can share music with each other in under the circumstances. And we just thought it'd be kind of fun to put that out there and let people know that we're all in this together. Let's make the most of it. Let's try to find a silver lining, and let's stay together.
I mean, did you do the arrangement for it, or did you have someone else arrange it?
No, it was an arrangement that we found online, and the crazy thing was, I don't even know who the person is. The name of the arrangers was Coleslaw. I have no idea. So whoever Mr. Coleslaw is out there, we're very grateful for that arrangement. We weren't sure if that was a legitimate name, so we didn't put it down. But it was cool. We did some tweaking. Obviously, yeah. We changed a little bit of it that would, you know, make the clarinet not sound so much like a clarinet, but, you know, make it sound more like a brass quintet. But it was fun. We had a good time.
Herr Coleslaw. He's like, Nein, das ist mein Name.
He's like, oh, no, I'm probably getting a lawsuit as I speak. I swear, I didn't know what to do. And actually, we were really surprised. We didn't think. It's got over like 1.2 million views. We had no idea. I mean, that's just on Facebook. We had no idea it was going to be what it was. And but I'm glad that people like it. It makes us feel, I don't know, makes us feel like we're connecting.
Well, Steve, you went viral.
Yeah, it went viral. During a virus epidemic, it went viral. Well, it's fine. You know, we'll take it. That's the best kind. You know?
So, Steve, you grew up in Austin, Texas, but you were born in Montana, I believe, right?
No, I was born in Denver, Colorado.
Denver, okay.
But it's fine. I did live up so I was born in Denver, and I think I was there less than a year. That's where my mom's family's from. And we moved we went back and forth. So we moved to, I was either in the state of Wyoming or in Texas. So my dad was a band director, so he was moving from job to job. We lived in Wyoming for maybe 5 years tops. Most of my life was in Texas. And that's basically, I consider my musical upbringing in Texas because I started there in 6th grade.
Okay.
So I pretty much, I mean, I had a couple of years, 4th and 5th up in Wyoming, but 6th grade was in Austin. And that's really where I stayed through high school.
So, I mean, Texas is like kind of like the band capital of America, right?
It's amazing down there. It's crazy.
I mean, they have all these different sizes of bands, and they have like this huge musical education program, musical competitions, marching band competitions. And,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, were you in marching band as well?
Oh, are you kidding? My dad's a band director. I'm definitely in marching band. I loved it. I was totally into it. I was so into DCI. I even thought,
really?
Oh yeah, my dad used to do, he worked with the Casper Troopers when he was younger, and also with the Madison Scouts, I believe. Okay. So yeah, so the cool thing was he was a trombone player, but he also he worked the brass for both of those groups and wrote drill design. And so DCI was a big thing. And in my own family of 4 boys, I was the only woodwind player. So I kept asking, I mean, forgive me if it's a repeat story that people have heard before, but we're all about 1.5 years apart from each other, all my brothers. And I'm the second oldest. My oldest brother is a trumpet player. So he picked the trumpet. And when my dad came around and said, what instrument do you want to play? I said, I want to play the trumpet. And he looked at me and said, really don't want you competing with your brother, who, you know, is just going to be a grade older than you. And I'm like, oh, I was so upset. And I'm like, well, I want to play jazz. So I'm going to play saxophone. I think my dad's eyes started twitching. It was, you know, he's a band director and he's the saxophone. It's like, oh my God. No offense to saxophone. You know, I love it.
Nothing's really wrong with that.
I really wanted to play. Yes, I wanted to play it. And so I did. I played for about 2 weeks. I learned how to play Happy Birthday to my uncle. And it was his birthday. And I played it for him. And I'm packing up the suitcase. I mean, the instrument case. And my dad walks up behind me and he pats me on the back. He said, oh, that was really good, son. You sounded really, really great. You know, so he dangled the carrot in front of me. He said, you know, saxophone's really great instrument. He said, you know, the clarinet's a lot harder. It's the same fingerings, but it's much more difficult. And, you know, I mean, you can play jazz on clarinet too, but it is a lot harder. I don't know. Maybe you should just stay with the saxophone. And I looked at him and I said, no, I'll try it. I'll try the clarinet. And he had one right behind his back and he said, okay, here it is. And he handed me the Rubank method.
He pulled it out of his pocket. He's like, oh, by the way.
Ta-da, here you go. And so I went to my room and started practicing the clarinet. So, and I guess that's it. That's the story. But I definitely, he got me. I actually, you know, of course I love to play the clarinet, but when I think about it, my older brother plays trumpet. I play the clarinet. Then my next brother plays the trombone, and then French horn for my youngest brother. And we could have had, you know, get a tuba in there. We could have had a brass quintet.
Yeah,
exactly. It would have been insane. But whatever. That's just how it goes. And it's kind of funny because, like, at least I get an opportunity to be a brass quintet member with my family. So
oh, that's so cool.
Fun.
So full circle, right?
Yeah, totally.
How did you decide to pursue classical music as a career? I mean, did you know, from the beginning that you were going to go into it, or did you kind of say, I want this to be a hobby and I want to do something else? You were big in sports when you were growing up too?
The thing is, no, I was just tiny kid. I mean, I think by the time I was a freshman at Eastman, I still weighed 136 pounds. I mean, I was nothing. I'm tiny. But that's when I started. I met a good friend of mine. We're still best friends, pianist named Craig Ketter. Shout out to him if he's listening. He and I loved bodybuilding. So we started really getting into bodybuilding, and that stuck with me ever since. So I love powerlifting. I joined a few powerlifting teams when I was, you know, overseas in Germany. But the thing is, I also just loved seeing the improvement. I could see myself, you could actually see it happening right before your eyes. Oh my wow. God, like, look at that. I mean, or, you know, you get stronger. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
But, you know, maintenance is a big thing. And I can't do it as much as I like. I wish I could do it more. And, you know, I'm injury prone right now. So I have to be careful. I've got a few problems with my shoulder that I'm trying to work out. So, but I love lifting. You got to have an outlet. You know, you can't just be. Exactly. I mean, it could be, but I don't think it's healthy to just do one thing so dedicated and obsessive. Wait, I think most musicians, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put a blanket statement out there, but at least most classical musicians I know are obsessive compulsive. I mean, who's going to sit in a room for hours and hours and hours and practice the same stuff over and over and over? I mean, it got that way. And I think for me, when I realized how to practice more efficiently and, you know, the more that you mature as a musician, the more you learn on how to approach things in a productive way rather than counterproductive.
Would you talk about that just a little bit, like about being you know, like your practical approach to practicing?
Yeah, you know, I've always felt weird about this because, I mean, I love my students. I'm very proud of all my students, and anybody I've had a chance to, if somebody feels like I help them improve, I feel grateful that I could share some knowledge. But to be perfectly honest, when people say, well, what's your warm-up? I am embarrassed. I don't have a warm-up. I've never had a warm-up. And I hope it doesn't bite me in the you-know-what. But I do believe that one thing that is probably different than a lot of other clarinet players out there, at least as a reed, as a single reed player. I cannot play on a bad reed. I can't practice on a substandard reed. So what I had to learn is how to make great reeds. And I'm very proud of that. I had a wonderful teacher who's at Rice University, and his name is Michael Webster. He was he's a fantastic person and a great teacher. But for me, the thing that I learned, the greatest gift he gave me was his ability to make reeds. And we learned how to make them from scratch. So, you know, splitting the cane, and then first doing it by hand with a reed knife. It's a tedious process. My heart goes out to all the oboists and bassoonists out there who deal with this on a daily basis. But what ended up happening was I learned how to make really great reeds, and I learned how to adjust reeds and all of that business from really from the beginning of my freshman year at Eastman. I had 2 years with Mr. Webster, my freshman and sophomore year, and it was indelible in the way that I practice, because people think, well, practicing, of course, it can just be the physical, repetition of actually playing the instrument. But there's so much more to practicing. We all know that. Practicing might not have to do with the instrument in your hand at all. I mean, there's a lot of score study. There's a lot of
absolutely, mental practice.
Yeah, and singing, and and memorizing and listening. My God, the most important thing that we're always still training ourselves is to be great listeners. And I think, you know, that's the beauty, I think, honestly, of being a musician, is that over the years, you know, how many times are we going to play Beethoven's Fifth Symphony?
Yeah.
And if you really have been developing your ear as a musician, it should be different, as we are all human beings, and it's a living, breathing organism that's changing all the time in every performance. But we are also hearing things in a different way. I hear my playing in a different way, to the extent that when I listen to something that I did the day before, most likely I'm not very happy with it. You know, I'm always judging myself. I think that's also part of the OCD, way of thinking that most musicians have, is that, you know, we can strive for perfection. We're never going to get it.
Yeah.
We have to teach ourselves to be in the moment and be grateful that we're in the moment.
Yes.
And I mean, right now is a perfect example of what we're dealing with, not having the ability to connect in the same room with an audience and share that gift with, you know, the same acoustic, and listening to each other and supporting each other while we play in that moment is, you know, that's what we're longing for right now, I think, and being able to give back. But I'm grateful that we have technology, because thank God we have an opportunity to, it's still a very prominent form of connection, and I'm glad that we have it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, one of the things I love about coming to work is, well, I mean, getting to listen to you play, right? And that's like, you know, when I hear you play, there's, number one, there's so much engagement to every note, right? You're just not, there's no throwaways. Like, everything has like a direction, and it has some thought, and it has life behind it. You know, it could be a different sound quality, but it's all, you know, and you might experiment. You might do one thing different the next day than you did the day before. And it's, you know, I mean, for me, that's like exciting. I'm like, all right, what's he going to do today? It's just, and
it's the same, man. I think we all feel that way about each other, especially when we have moments where, look, like I said, if we're playing the Beethoven Fifth Symphony, I mean, we could just put it on autopilot if we wanted to, and we could play it exactly the same way we did it the day before.
Yeah.
But what's the point in that?
Yeah.
I mean, basically, I think that that's where we run the risk as classical musicians, that the interest and the art form can greatly suffer, especially when people say, well, I've got a great recording, why do I need to go downtown and hear them play?
Yeah.
I could just put that CD in, or go to Spotify and hear whatever the heck I want to hear. And that's why I think really well-trained listeners, or that's what's beautiful about music. There's not a wrong way to listen to music. Everybody has their own perception. But if somebody comes back and hears the orchestra play a piece that they just heard them play, say maybe in the same week, I'm not, saying it's likely, but it does happen. We do have, subscribers that come 2 or 3 times during a week. And for a while, I was kind of like, why would you do that? And then I go, oh, because they're listening so intently. They're hearing how differently we play on a regular basis. Hearing us re-listen these standard pieces and bring them to life in the moment, which is always going to be different. I mean, it should be. So.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, for me, like with Maestro Moody, he might do something one night and then he might say, listen, let's take a risk here. Let's play really soft. And let's just really draw out this tension. And that's what's fun about being on tour is you get the same pieces, different hall, different, and every day we change, right?
For sure.
It's like a group of 100 people and we're all different people every day. I might wake up and I might just be a little tired and, I might play things a little slow. Never me. But, I'm just
coffee,
saying,
baby.
Yeah. But, it's that, we're the same. The music's the same. The instrument's the same, but we're never the same. And that's what's so great. And it's all these moving parts and it can never be the same performance, like the same way twice. Even the same.
It shouldn't be. Yeah. And I know, in really, in all honesty, I don't think it ever is. And I think if I was, so I know I ramble and I apologize, but I know you were asking me about practicing and what I do for that. But I know one thing is very important to remember. The thing that I find that is lacking, or that I don't think enough people are doing when they practice, is singing, truly singing, and getting away from what's on the page. Meaning, I'm not saying don't play what's on the page. Certainly, once you know what we have a blueprint. You have the notes. You have it. You might or might not have a tempo marking, but you certainly have a concept of how a phrase should go. The more that you're able to get away from the bar lines and from this vertical, sort of sterile approach to, a mathematical way of playing. Because I really believe, yes, that is important. You need that, but that's not the end result. The end result is where it believes that it's a complete giving of your soul. And people need to understand that we practice daily. We're always trying to hone our craft. But the most important thing that we can do is never be satisfied with what we just did and constantly push the envelope so that we're always trying to, I just don't believe it. Yes, practice is maintenance, but I don't want to maintain anything. I just want to keep going up. And as long as I continue to strive to be better, I'm going to pray and hope that I get better every day. And it may not even be something that, hopefully something that I can, consciously recognize, but it's a process. And I think it gets frustrating when we practice as much as we do. And when we're students and we're like, oh my God, I got to go take another audition. And you're just hitting that wall. You're constantly hitting that wall. You've got to find a reason. And I really do believe this, no matter what audition you take, if you are really, really your worst critic and you really are open to everything, meaning that you are truly in the moment, you will be the first person to know why you did not advance. But you've got to be 100% honest with yourself. And that's a tough thing to do, man.
Golly, is it ever, man?
Get up in the morning, look in the mirror and go, ooh, no, ouch. But say, well, I don't care. I'm going to keep trying. That's all we do. We just keep trying.
It's that little increments of progress, right? Every day, progress, not perfection.
And I know so many people that were way, way more talented and still are much more talented than I had to work really, really, really hard for every little thing that I got. But in a way, that was developing my foundation. And people that I knew that were really, really gifted and had all this talent, but didn't have the work ethic.
Yes.
They're the ones that drop out.
Yeah. They have to go hand in hand, right?
They have to go hand in hand.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so great to hear you say that. Cause you're one of the best musicians I know. And like honestly,
Wow.
when I hear you play, it's just like, oh, I mean, you know, he woke up like that. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
you know, it's like, oh, he just, you know, that he was just gifted with
Uh,
this, you know, he was born with a clarinet in his mouth, and it's like, no, like, you know, you started off and you learned your scales, and every day you look at the things that don't work, and you just try to, you know, get a little bit better, and those little increments add up to big progress and big results.
and it's also true that the better we get,
Hmm.
the higher the bar is, and the more that we hear that is imperfect in our playing. I mean, so it's a catch-22. You're constantly, yes, if you listen to a recording today and one that you played maybe a year ago, it should be substantially better. But the way you hear things now is on a much more refined, you know, you've got a deeper concept of musicality, and none of it is good. So, I mean, we're constantly beating ourselves up, but hopefully like I say, I have to constantly not just tell myself, but tell my students, as long as you um, don't set so many goals in one day, really just try to get one or two things and focus on that,
Yeah.
because even one goal can almost feel unattainable. So you really, if you are your worst critic, which we all are, we should be, and we are listening to ourselves on a much more refined level, then you have a chance of at least honing in this art form with smaller goals,
Mm.
daily smaller goals, because I don't think, you know, it's not like I'm just going to put this concerto on the stand and I'm going to play the thing from beginning all the way to the end. I mean, I'm lucky if I get through the first page in a month.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
it's like you got to set your standards, but you also have to have a time frame.
Yes.
And so here's the thing. I've also said this, like, you don't want to hear me the day after an audition. I sound like a beginner. I sound like an absolute beginner the day after an audition,
Why do you
because
say that?
I've learned to peak on that moment, on that day.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound my best 2 weeks before an audition.
Hmm.
I'm fully aware of what I think my best will be on the day of the audition. So I'm constantly gearing myself. So audition preparation and daily practice are two totally different things.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking like almost like you're training for the Olympics now.
It is. I mean, I
You're
really
talking
believe that.
like, you know, this is your event, this is your day. You're in, you know, wherever, you know, Osaka, Japan, or Beijing, or wherever the Olympics are, Sydney, Australia, and that's your day, and you've trained and you've made it to like this race, this one, you know, I mean, 5 minute race for lack of.
It's insane, because I think some of the best auditions I've ever had, and I've been very blessed with, you know, obviously good luck, because it does take a lot of good luck, but I've been blessed. I mean, some of the best auditions I've ever had have probably lasted 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, it's insane. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm literally, you know, even if you felt relatively good and you're walking off the stage, you're like, there's no way I'm going to win. I only played like 10 minutes. How are they going to give me a job after hearing? But I think that's, you know, I would hope that, you know, if things go your way, that's what the tenure process is all about.
Mhm.
That gives you an opportunity to experiment, adjust, learn how it is to play with different colleagues, and then, you know, because I don't believe that, you know, everything is solved in a day. You know, I don't think, oh, we found the guy, this is it, he's our person. It's a trial, and I think, and if you really look at it from a philosophical perspective, every day, I've always said this, I think every day is an audition. I mean, you're
Yeah.
just trying to do your best that day.
Yeah.
But, you know, in all honesty, when it comes to a big audition, or preparing for a you know, a big time audition, yes, I don't really care how I sounded the day before or the day after. I just care about that one day, and
Hmm.
that's all I strive for.
Wow. Wow. So you have kind of like a week by week kind of plan. Okay, by this week I should be here. By this week I should be here. And then ultimately your goal is to peak on the day of the audition.
Yeah, and I do know that, you know, I would hope that more orchestras, uh, would lay out exactly what they'd like to hear from the musicians, but sometimes they don't. And most of the time in the big five, they just say complete works, and sight reading is also available. And, you know, sometimes they need that extra leverage to figure out who they want to pick for the job. And it is a weeding out process, and it is stressful, but I believe if you I believe if you're wise enough and you're smart enough to know that, okay, I am going to obviously pick out the most important parts of these orchestral pieces and work on those first.
Yes.
And then find the 2D sections that they could ask that are difficult and work on those next.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to play the first piece of a symphony all the way to the end. You're never going to have enough time. So you've got to manage your time extremely well.
Yeah, it's like prioritizing and then deciding like what's my first priority and what's my second priority.
Right. And I think the more mature, wiser, experienced musicians know this. And I think that, you know, there's so much talent out there. The younger generation has so much skill and technical ability. The only thing that sometimes they may lack is a little bit of that wisdom and know-how, so that they don't just go crazy and try to prepare every possible note that's on the page, because you actually end up being counterproductive with your time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just, you know, from my own experience, the Chicago Symphony list was 28 full pieces, right? And so and like 2 concertos and then sight reading. And I was like, you know, one year I gave like 9 months of my life to like do like a, you know, 10-minute audition, and then it was over. I was like, oh man.
Think about the Olympians. This is what they do. It's insane.
Talk a little bit about resiliency, because I think that's a big skill that we have to have, right? As like, you know, someone that's like done over 40 auditions, like, and I'm sure you've done your share. How do you like bounce back, like mentally? How do you say, I'm going to keep doing this? Like, I mean, obviously you love it and you're enthusiastic about it.
Well, the truth is, you know, I don't think anybody truly loves an audition. I don't think they love being put under a microscope and dissected in front of everybody. But I do believe this. I do believe that if you are able to monitor an improvement in your playing, now that could be battling nerves. That could be, wow, I finally played every excerpt at the tempo that best suited me. Oh, I had my sound. I found my voice. I mean, all of these things are the culmination of what usually is the person who wins the job. I don't believe that a lot of orchestras, I would hope, are not looking for a carbon copy of a predecessor, because I just don't believe that that's wise. I don't think that that's necessarily, yes, you want to respect the past, and you want to take all the best qualities from what, you know, there's so many great clarinetists, so many great musicians that I respect and admire, and I learn from all of their stuff. I mean, I want to embody a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but in the end, you still have to say, is it you that's actually speaking and singing? Because if you're not the one saying it, you're not convincing yourself. You're sure not going to be convincing anybody else.
Wow.
So I think when you talk about resiliency, look, like I say, if you look at every day as an audition, yes, you're pretty much going to be beating yourself up almost every day. But if that becomes your new normal, meaning, okay, I'm not just going to be flogging myself every day, but I am always going to hold myself to a higher standard the next day. Yes, you're going to fall, you're going to stumble, and hopefully, as long as you know that it's a process and that you will get better, as long as you don't give up. I mean, I've always been so surprised. There's so many great musicians out there that I grew up with, and I was like, oh my God, that person is totally going to get this job and this job and this job. And then they don't, because they gave up or they settled, and they're like, no, you know, this is where I'm supposed to be, and I'm content. And I'm like, look, I am envious of your contentment.
Yeah,
I wish I could feel that way, but I can't. And I'm constantly going, well, you know, hey, let's just keep pushing the envelope. That's one of the main reasons why I love being in the Chicago Symphony, because I know that whether they admit it or not, I do believe this, that every person on that stage is really, really grateful to be surrounded by other people pushing themselves. And that we're always constantly wanting to be better, not just as individuals, but collectively sounding better. So of course, you know, what do I do when I'm driving home after a concert? I'm already listening to the performance we just had. We're very lucky that we can get a chance to use this for archival benefit, so that, oh, by tomorrow's concert, I'm definitely not doing that. I'm definitely going to try this. And it's a constant learning experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we have to look at every day as an audition, and that's how you build up resilience.
Yeah, exactly. So the audition day is anything kind of like special. It's like, I've been treating every day like this, so
Yes.
why is this day different than any other day?
I know someone told me, I can't remember who someone told me, but it wasn't their quote, but they said, it was someone who had just won a big job, and I'd known this person. Yes, I'd known this person for a very long time, and he was going through the circuit, and he was moving up into orchestras, boom, 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 boom. And then he won this big job. And I remember everybody was like, oh my God, he what did he do? What did he do? Like, he must have like just knocked it out of the park. And his comment was, I don't play any different today than I did yesterday.
Yes.
Now, everybody's got to find their psychological way to deal with this OCD thing that we do. Like, it's crazy, and we can go crazy doing it. We have to have balance. You've got to find other things other than the instrument to, you know, fulfill yourself as a human being. I mean, you've got to find other things. And I'm not just saying one or two. I mean, you got to find a balance.
Yeah.
And everybody's different. But I do believe it is an obsessive compulsive disorder. I mean, some of the best musicians I know are loony. But that's okay.
Hi, my name is David. I play French horn. Hi, David. It's a disorder.
I'm
There
here
aren't support
because
groups for musicians, are there?
I have a disorder, and I'm here because I play the clarinet. I'm sorry. No, but the truth is, we're all, you know, we have to find our voice. We have to speak. We have to sing. We have to be. I do believe that we're longing for the connection to something that's bigger than ourselves. Because I do believe, look, we know many egomaniacs. We've known many, and we've run into them. But I do feel that the egomaniacs are not the greatest musicians in the world. I think the great musicians are the ones that tend to blame themselves if something didn't go right. They're first to look at themselves first. That's another reason why I'm in this orchestra. I do believe that everybody holds themselves accountable and will look at themselves first before pointing the finger at somebody else and saying, man, I wish that guy wouldn't play that way. It's really disturbing me. Instead, you find colleagues that go, oh, is there something that I'm doing that is maybe distracting? Could I help with this? Is there a way that we can find a solution to making this unified and sounding better? Because I think that that's really the sign of great colleagues and musicians that have a common goal. They check their egos at the door, and they come in. And yes, I make mistakes all the time. All the time.
That I
try. No, well, I do, and I do it especially in rehearsal.
Yeah. Oh, because
I don't want. I mean, I try to do my homework. I mean, I try to prepare as much as I can. But the truth is, you know, when you practice at home or in some other acoustic, and then you go to the hall, and our hall, not the greatest acoustic, to say the least. It's challenging to find what works in the middle of an orchestra. So I'll be adjusting the way I play phrases in a way that I didn't do at home because it just won't work that way on that stage. So having knowledge of the stage is important, but I guarantee no matter what you're playing with a bunch of other musicians who are all feeling the same thing and adjusting and coping in the moment, a rehearsal is all about trying to find that common ground by the dress rehearsal. So I feel like I'll change phrases, dynamics, my setup, you know, all kinds of stuff like that to make sure that it's the right it's right for that particular piece. And
wow. So it's about being flexible and being able to adjust, but also listening, really listening to what everyone else is doing and taking it into account.
For sure.
Wow, that's fantastic. Could you just tell a little bit? I mean, you've had so many experiences over the course of your career. You've played the Mozart Clarinet Concerto with Fabio Luisi in Carnegie Hall. I mean, you've recorded, I don't know how many albums. You recorded Lincoln with John Williams. I mean, would you just talk a little bit about some of those experiences?
Well, oddly, I mean, I look at any recording I've done. I don't have any solo albums. I've never done that. Someday, maybe. But I know you're like
the Brahms, man. Come on.
Okay, but look, great. I hope I can. At this rate, I just hope I can be in another room with a non-family member making music. But right now, that's all I got.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for my family because right now I wouldn't have anything to share making music with. But I think almost every recording I've done has truly been chamber music related. I mean, I look at concerti as chamber music anyway. I mean, yes, I have a moment where I might be doing something by myself, but honestly, it's the complete process from beginning to end. We're all a part of it. And I do believe that I've been really, really, really lucky. I mean, I used to want to be honestly, wasn't pursuing an orchestral career for most of my education. I mean, I wanted to be a soloist and a chamber musician. I was doing competitions and playing in chamber music festivals. Honestly, I only did chamber music festivals. I never did an orchestral summer festival ever in my life. I never did. Because honestly, the funny thing is, I thought I don't have what it takes to be an orchestral player. I don't have that accuracy. I don't have that ability to play something over and over and over again. But that's because I didn't really understand. I think people think that's what we do, is that we are able to, and there are players that do that. And I have immense respect for the players that can just like lay it down. It sounds amazing. You hand them a different clarinet, a different reed, a different mouthpiece, they lay it down, they sound amazing. It's not me. I've never been that way. I'll tell you one thing, I don't think I ever play anything the same way twice. I'm engaged and I'm just trying to. I think of Ricardo Morales, he's always talking about boxing. He's a big boxing fan, so the bobbing and the weaving. I was like, I'm constantly bobbing and weaving, not so that I don't knock myself out. I'm just trying to stay alive out there. And the thing is, in a way, that's conditioning.
Yeah.
But I do believe I've been very, very lucky to have incredible moments, either in front of an orchestra or with, especially chamber music moments. I mean, to have an intimate musical experience with a handful of players is, I don't know, it's just incredible. And so I think
especially when everyone's on too, like when everyone's just fire. I mean, there's no greater feeling than being part of an orchestra where everyone has this, like, they're in the zone and they have an amazing concert like that. True. I mean, you just like it, you feel like you're on this train going like 1,000,000 miles an hour down the track, and like everyone's hanging on for dear life as they go around that curve, but we all make that curve. And then all of a sudden it's like, greater than the sum of the parts are greater, like, as the whole than they are, individually.
Yep. I wanted to mention something because here we're talking about these developmental moments in our life that I've been so lucky to have. I mean, I honestly, I forgot I was going to mention this, but, from my freshman year at Eastman, I formed a woodwind quintet with some of my friends. One of them, of course, is my wife on horn. I mean, it was also an opportunity for me to date her, so that worked out. That worked out really, really well. But so the other members of the woodwind quintet were all really, really close friends, and you found a chemistry that was really extraordinary. So I didn't do orchestral summer festivals because our quintet that's what we did. Our quintet was all that we did. And the great thing about that group, we won many, many really great competitions. One of them was Concert Artists Guild. And we got management and we started performing everywhere. We were going on tours. We were going all over the world. And the cool thing, and I really am so grateful for those musicians, because what ended up happening was not only did I learn how to listen, how to blend, how to play in tune, I knew all the tendencies of their playing, their instruments tendencies, as well as their own individual tendencies. When you play with great musicians, very rarely is there an opportunity to talk, because you don't need to. If everybody's doing it and there's a common ground, great musicians just go with the flow and they turn it into something that's just so spectacular. I was so lucky that I had that opportunity. So I was going to encourage anything of the younger generation of players, really play as much chamber music as you can. Get together with musicians that you admire, respect. I mean, honestly, when I asked these people to play, I didn't think they were going to. I was like lowest clarinetist on the totem pole at Eastman. Nobody knew who I was. I didn't know orchestral excerpts at all. I didn't know any. I was not placing high in any of these rotations, because I mean, I was in over my head. But I wanted, I mean, not only was I obviously very interested in Jill, but I really loved, especially her playing, and her playing with the bassoonist. They were the two people I sought out first, because they have an ability. They're like Vulcan mind linked. It's ridiculous. Not only could they would finish each other's sentences, but they could just play seamless, flawless, the way they could play together. And I said, man, that's the basis for a great group. Just like when you build a great orchestra, anything, I feel you build it from the bottom up. Yeah. And that's how it worked. And I couldn't believe that we formed this group, and we still talk with each other. We're hoping that we can get back together again and play a concert. I hope we do that sometime, because we're all on different parts of the country. But,
well, there's acapella, man. You guys got to record something with acapella.
I'm so tempted. I'm tempted, but we'll see.
I'll teach you how it works after this.
Yeah, I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do anything that involves technology, and my wife laughs, because it probably took us about 20 minutes just to get the phone to sit in the right place for this. And I don't even know if this is right, but that's all I can do.
You look great, man.
You look fantastic.
Hey, Steve, there's like one story I really want to ask you about. Like growing up in Austin, you told me on tour this really great story about how you met a really famous musician when you were in high school. You were going to Stubbs Barbecue, and would you mind just sharing that for us all? So Stubbs is an institution in Austin. It's like where Willie Nelson plays, and like lots of great musicians have come and gone through there.
Yeah, well, it is. It's an amazing place. And the funny thing is that, okay, so I'm dating people know I'm old, right? I mean, I'm 50, but the funny thing was, I think I was a senior. I'm pretty sure I was a senior, because the high school that I went to, Reagan High School, is an open campus, or it was an open campus. I don't know if it is anymore. So as a senior, I had maybe 2 or 3 periods that were independent study. So that was an opportunity for me to have a long lunch. And I remember that was the year I had a car, right? So I was so excited. I got in my car. I left the campus, and I had heard about Stubbs. I had never been there before. This is the first time I ever went to Stubbs. I go in, and I'm just sitting down. I order a brisket sandwich or something like that. And I'm sitting down, and this dude just plops down right in front of me. There was nobody else in this.
You had a full beard too, like as a senior.
Oh yeah, I was grizzly. And back then it was like fun to grow a beard, because nobody was really growing a beard when they were in high school. So it was just one of the things I did. But I remember sitting there, I'm eating this, barbecue, and this guy just sits there. I can't see his face. And he has a bottle of beer. The bartender keeps bringing up a bottle of beer and putting it down, and he's just playing acoustical guitar. And I mean, my jaw is like on the floor, because I'm like, this guy is amazing. He sounds so good. And I'm just sitting there, and and then he starts to sing, And then I heard his voice, and I'm like, holy crap, it's Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah, but you also said though, he goes, hey kid, buy me a beer. Like,
No, yeah, he said he said he had no money. He had no money. I mean, he was just, and this is when he was drinking, and he wasn't clean, and he was just trying out some new material. Well, all of a sudden, I buy him a beer, and by the time I get back to my chair, it's standing room only. There are like hundreds of people outside this little tiny barbecue joint just trying to get in to hear him play. And I'm just sitting like arm's length away from the guy handing him beers so he can play. I did not go back to school that day. I didn't go back and finish my other classes. I waited and sat through like 3 sets of his playing and got a chance to just shake his hand. And I mean, it was amazing. I mean, what are the odds?
I mean, one of the greatest blues guitar players from me to you, right? And you just get
For
to
sure.
trying out new stuff, and you're like front row seat, just like watching.
I'm right there. I mean, I'll never ever get close to somebody like that again. I mean, it was incredible. So yeah, it was really awesome.
I mean, what an experience, man! That's like a one in a lifetime. The other story I really liked that you told me was when you went to Berlin. You were a Fulbright scholar. And I mean, of course, it's like insanely hard to be a Fulbright scholar. And, you learned a lot about the German clarinet while you were over there. But you also ran into some Americans. Could you tell that story, how you met the Americans?
You mean like on the bass, the military bass?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is obviously, it's not a clarinet story. So, but it's obviously important because that's it's like my outlet is lifting. But at that time, and maybe it's still the case, because even when we visit Europe, finding gyms with proper weightlifting equipment and things like that, it's also extremely expensive, and there's not much space, right? So you can't get a lot done unless you pay a lot of money for like an exclusive club. Of course, I'm just living off a stipend, so I've got nothing. I just have enough to get food on the table, and that's it. So somebody told me that if you go onto the military base, so at that time the wall had just come down. I was there between 91 and 93.
Wow.
But the wall had just come down, but the US military base was still up and running. And I don't know, I just had this weird feeling that I'm gonna go try. Why not? At least I said I tried. I walk on the base, and I'm walking around. You have to have your passport, of course, to get onto it. So I get into the base, and I'm walking around, and there was like a commissary there. So I'm like gonna go get something to eat, and this dude comes up to me, a big dude, and I mean, I was no little guy then. I had really been into powerlifting and weightlifting. I was like 200 pounds. I was big and I was solid. And this guy comes up to me, and he says, "Hey, I've never seen you before. Are you in the military?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not in the military." I said, "But I'm an American." And he said, "You lift?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I lift." He said, "How much do you weigh?" I'm like, "Why are you asking me these questions?" And this is kind of weird. I'm like, feeling violated. And he says, "No, man, we need somebody on our powerlifting team. I'm lieutenant whatever, and I'm in this weight class. The guy that was in our 185 weight class, he got shipped off, and we've got meets coming up, and we're like, we want to win." I'm like, "Okay, well, I can't. I'm not military personnel." He goes, "Here, Ken, you got a minute? Let's take you up to our commanding officer." I go up to this office, and he says, "Hey, yeah, how much do you weigh?" I'm like, "Well, hi, my name's Steve. It's nice to meet you." And he says, "Look, we're pretty proud of our powerlifting club, and would you like to join it?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, are you saying that I can work out here on the base?" And he said, "Oh yeah, 24 hours, man. We'll give you unlimited access, but you have to be available for these dates to go to." The thing is, you know, when you're a Fulbright, you basically are just, I was just there taking lessons, and I would play occasionally in the orchestra, but most of the time my time was free to just study. And the only condition is that you cannot be paid. Like you can't earn any other income while you're a Fulbright student. And so I wasn't. I got basically, and they gave me free meals, man. They were feeding me. I was eating.
We just got cut off with our live stream with Steve Williamson. I just really want to hear the end of his story here. Let's see if we can get him to tell the rest of that story. It was such a great story about how he was powerlifting and how he was, here he is. We just got cut off, so we're going to go back on with Reed Scraper. We're waiting for him. That is one of my favorite stories of Steve.
I'm back. Sorry.
Hey, we got cut off. Sorry, man. I'm glad you're back with us, man, because we got to hear the end of this, man.
Okay, well, sorry I talked too long, and I don't know why I got cut off. But here's the thing. Basically, so for my almost a year and a half, I was going around from, you know, the U.S. military base to the French base to the Hungarian base. We were going all around Europe. I mean, it's fine. I'm trying to be a, professional clarinetist, musician, but we were winning all these powerlifting competitions, and so those guys threw like a big party for me when I was heading back to the States, because, well, their base was actually they were shutting it down over that time.
Yeah, exactly.
So it worked out beautifully. I basically was handed a free gym membership to an amazing gym, working out with awesome dudes who really pushed me. And it was a great release for me to have something outside of the clarinet that I could focus on. So I had two really, really fantastic professional experiences over there.
And you had these people that were like, really supporting you, and, friends that weren't necessarily musicians, which is so
totally. Awesome. They would come to my concerts, man. It was awesome. Yeah, I was
man.
like, they could barely fit into the seats of the hall. They were just massive dudes, And
did you ever see any Hans and Franz?
I'm sure I was competing against many Hans and Franz. I mean, it was, some of these people I didn't want to talk to. They were freaking me out. But the guys that I was training with were fantastic.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That sounds like a really great time. Steve, do you have any advice for the young musician before we go? Just like anyone that wants a career in music, maybe that wants to continue on that path?
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that this is important, especially in light of what's happening right now. I don't know what's going to happen with, we are all on pins and needles wondering what's going to happen with orchestras, concert halls, and, are we all going to be able to eventually be back in the, I want to be optimistic and believe that we're all going to be back in these wonderful concert halls performing again. But I also want people to realize that it's super, super important for you to think outside the box. Like, yes. I know that you can't just limit yourself to saying, well, the only way that I'm going to have a career is by being one, financially stable orchestral lifestyle. Look, that's not the case. We're all sitting here going, I don't know when the next paycheck is going to come, and we're all worried, and we want to support this art form. But I think what it's basically showing us, and I know this has been out there for a while, is that you don't need to pigeonhole yourself as a musician, and you shouldn't say that the only way I'm going to be successful is if I have an orchestral job. I love orchestral playing, and I'm really, really blessed. I know we both are. We're very, very blessed and lucky to have an opportunity to be on stage with, a large orchestra playing wonderful, wonderful music. But like I said before, I learned so much about being a good musician and challenging myself. I mean, is playing in a woodwind quintet. I mean, you can do other things. We're seeing today that people can make solo albums in their living room. I mean, you think about Glenn Gould, He was doing it a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now look, that's a piano, and he has his own orchestra. It's a little harder for us as I mean, maybe not for some string instruments, of course, but for us as individual wind instruments, it's not so simple. And but what I do believe is that thinking more outside of the box, being creative, you know, don't just limit yourself to one genre. I mean, I still personally want to learn how I have this inner, you know, person that wants to learn how to play jazz. I have ideas. I'm scared to embarrass myself, but the truth is, if I don't take that chance, I'm never going to know. You shouldn't just limit yourself to one genre of music. Listen to as much music. I know I heard your interview with Dale Clevenger, and he's absolutely right. Listen to as many different types of music as you can, because the more that you broaden your perspective, the better you are as a musician, and the more enlightening you're going to be as a performer.
Wow. Fantastic. And then lastly, like, you know, can you just kind of give like a insight into your like enthusiasm, your positivity, and how you stay grateful?
Oh, I mean, you know, I mean, everybody that I know has had some sort of a struggle story, right? And how they got where they got. And my only advice is that, you know, don't forget your roots. Don't forget where you came from. Stay connected with your friends and family. Know that the more that you have a support base of friends, meaning, and I say that, and I can be a better friend myself. I should be reaching out more to my colleagues and friends than I do. But it's, you know, like I said, it's a process. We're all trying to cope. But I think learning to, like I said, it's very easy to be hard on yourself, but learning to have a balance in life is really important, because if you don't have other outlets, you can't just go full throttle on one thing. You're gonna, you know, you're gonna blow the engine if you go full throttle all the time.
Yeah.
So learning how to manage your passion without, you know, without hurting yourself, being positive, trying to be positive all the time. Look, like I always say, I start a practice session when I'm going to practice. I'll start with something very, very lyrical, not so challenging for me to play, but something where I can hear my voice and sing. Then I'll work on some stuff that's difficult. By the end, I go back to something that's very simple, very lyrical, very uplifting, so that I know that I finish on a positive note, rather than, you know, beating myself up because I just, you know, how many times am I going to screw up the last, you know, few pages of Daphnis? And who wants to hear that anyway? The truth is, you've got to manage your time really well, but you also have to, you know, that's the thing, don't tackle too much too soon. You have to really manage your time. Otherwise, I think you really can hurt yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, I thank you so much for your time. Just lastly, let's close and just say like one thing about why music and the arts are so important during this difficult time with coronavirus.
Well, you know, obviously, this pandemic is it's extremely frightening. We're all fighting for our lives. We now know people who have passed because of this, and we've certainly we need each other. We need to support each other. We need to. I hope that the worldly view of us as human beings and the need for the enrichment of the human spirit is so profound. And I was just listening to Chris Cuomo last night on CNN, who has the virus and is sort of, you know, trapped in his basement to, you know, quarantine himself from the rest of his family. And he was talking about this with some other people who have the virus as well, who are trying to cope with it. And the the ironic thing that kept coming up was that they were all listening to music to help cope with the stress. And I think it's super important, if we're really, you know, going to do our job as ambassadors of music and sharing a gift that can actually help alleviate pain and bring joy and help people to calm down and stay calm, because, I don't think anything helpful about raising stress levels in a pandemic is healthy. I think the fight or flight mentality can only last so long. And I think what's going to end up happening is people are going to hurt themselves because they're stressing themselves out so much. Easier said than done. But if that means, I'm not saying you got to listen to a live broadcast of something. That's great if you do. Put on any form of music that you can. Probably not thrash metal, but I love it. I mean, you and I both are like heavy metal heads, but I'll put that on if I'm working out. But if I want to calm down, I mean, there's so much great music out there that can soothe your soul and relax you to a state where you can breathe. And we're talking about a virus that attacks your lungs. And I think it's really important that we, as human beings, we all have a common ground. We all need to breathe, but we all need to breathe peacefully and calmly. We've got to fight the virus. There's no doubt about it. But we also have to know when to be calm and when to be,
What would that piece?
strong.
What would a couple pieces be that you'd recommend for listening to?
Well, it's funny. I play the clarinet, but I'm not the biggest fan of the clarinet, so it's funny. I would much rather listen to opera. I mean, I would much rather listen to Puccini, La Boheme.
Yeah.
I mean, there's such great music. For me, anything that involves great singing, flat out trumps everything for me. But I do believe that, sometimes, don't put on the Barber Adagio. I think that's going to really, that can be depressing. But I do believe that, Mozart, any Mozart symphony, any Mozart opera, I do believe that there's just such beauty in Bach and Mozart and Brahms, and even there are some really fantastic contemporary works. I mean, I've been working a lot on the Corigliano clarinet concerto. I was going to do it a long time ago with the Met, and it never happened. But the second movement of that is an homage, a memoriam to his father, who was the great concertmaster of the New York Philharmonic. So music like that is so soulful and beautiful, and so it's got to be something that touches you on a very, very deep level and relaxes you. So I mean, there's a lot of great music out there.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your insight, for your positivity. It's so great to get to know you better, and I miss you, but man,
miss you too, buddy.
We're connected, man, and
no doubt.
Thank you for sharing your experience with all of us. It's just been a pleasure this morning. So
thank you, man.
Have a wonderful day and stay healthy. Give hugs to Jill and the family for me.
I will.
And look forward to seeing you soon. Okay.
Take care, man. We'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you all for watching.
Thank you. Bye.